Have you ever really, truly stopped to think about what a mathematical fact is? I mean, when we say 2 plus 2 equals 4, are we stating some kind of hard, objective truth about the universe itself? Something that was there long before us, just waiting to be discovered? Or is it something else entirely? Something that only exists inside our own minds? Well, that is one of the biggest mysteries in philosophy, and today we're diving right in.
Just think about it for a second. Is math a language that we humans invented to describe the world around us? Or is it the actual language of the world itself? This one question puts two massive ideas head to head. The idea that math is this external, rock-solid reality versus the idea that math is a powerful internal creation of our own consciousness.
So to get to the bottom of this, we're going to go on a little philosophical quest. Here's our map. First, we'll define what we mean by hard versus soft facts. Then, we're going to smash right into something called the slingshot roadblock, a huge challenge to one of those ideas. After that, we'll check out the two escape routes that philosophers came up with before discovering a pretty shocking twist, the inevitable softening. And finally, we'll see what life in a soft world actually looks like and tackle the biggest question of all: why does any of this even matter? All right, so to really get this debate, we first need to understand the two sides of the coin. We've got to define the central conflict between what philosophers call hard facts and soft facts. Okay, so in one corner, you've got hard facts. This is the idea that mathematical truths are these real, objective things that exist out there in the universe, totally independent of us, like a mountain or a planet. They're the truth makers that make a sentence like, the number 3 is a prime number, objectively true. But in the other corner, you have soft facts. This is the belief that these are really just internal concepts. Math isn't out there, it's in here, inside our minds. Now that hard facts idea, it feels pretty intuitive, right? It seems to make sense. But it runs into a massive, massive roadblock. I'm talking about a powerful logical argument that threatens to bring that entire theory crashing down. It's called the slingshot argument, and it is a brilliantly clever logical trap. What it does, through a series of steps that all seem perfectly valid, is it shows something truly shocking. It proves that if you accept that any true sentence corresponds to a hard fact, well, then all true sentences, everything from 2 plus 2 equals 4 to the sky is blue, they must all point to the exact same fact. And just like that, the entire rich universe of human knowledge collapses into one single giant blob of truth. And that is a huge problem for the hard facts team. So the slingshot argument is blocking the path. If you're a believer in hard facts, what do? Well, philosophers came up with two main escape routes to try and dismantle the argument and hopefully save the idea of separate, distinct mathematical facts. The first escape route is all about changing the rules of logic itself. It goes after a principle called extensionality, which basically says you can swap out terms that refer to the same thing. Think of it like this. You can swap the morning star for the evening star in a sentence because they both refer to the planet Venus. Well, this escape route says, hold on, not so fast. You can't always do that. By blocking that simple swap, the hope is to stop the slingshot right in its tracks. Now, the second strategy is totally different. It doesn't mess with the rules of swapping. It changes what we even count as a fact. This approach is called fine-graining, and it argues that facts are incredibly specific and super detailed. So the fact that the morning star is bright is seen as a fundamentally different fact than the planet Venus is bright, even though we know they're the same object. By making facts this specific, those simple swaps that the slingshot argument relies on just aren't allowed anymore. Okay, so we have our two escape routes, two totally different strategies to try and save the idea of hard objective facts. But this is where our philosophical quest takes a very, very unexpected turn. And here's the crazy twist. It doesn't matter which path you take. It's a stunning philosophical irony, really. Both of these attempts to save hard facts end up doing the complete opposite. Both of them lead to what philosophers call the softening of facts. Let's just quickly trace that journey again, because it's wild. First, the slingshot argument creates a massive problem for hard facts. In response, philosophers try two different escape routes. But here's the kicker. The result, the very act of blocking the argument, whether you do it by changing the swapping rules or by making facts more detailed, forces you to redefine facts so much that they just aren't hard and objective anymore. The only conclusion left on the table is that all you have are soft mathematical facts. So we've been forced to give up on hard facts. What does this soft world even look like? What in the world are these soft mathematical facts, or SMFs that we're apparently left with? Well, SMFs are fundamentally different from where we started. They're seen as mental representations of math. They're the structures inside our minds that we use to think about numbers and equations. And because they're internal, they can no longer be objective truth makers out in the world. They aren't the external reality that makes a sentence true. Instead, they're part of the cognitive machinery we use to understand that sentence.
Look, I know this all might seem really abstract and out there, but this conclusion has huge ripple effects. It really challenges some of our core assumptions about how logic, language, and even meaning work, especially in the world of mathematics.
And it's worth pointing out, this entire debate is only possible because of a special logical framework called non-Fregian logic. You see, standard logic just says a sentence is either true or false. But this system allows sentences to have much richer, more complex meanings. It's the very tool that lets us even ask if 2 + 2 = 4 points to a hard fact or a soft idea in the first place. So what's the big takeaway here? What's the bottom line? Well, accepting that we only have soft facts directly challenges a really powerful idea about how language works. A lot of linguists and philosophers believe in something called the situational paradigm. That's the idea that language gets its meaning by pointing to objective things out there in the world. But if mathematical facts aren't objective things in the world and are instead in our minds, that whole model starts to look pretty shaky. Ultimately, the conclusion is a really profound one. As the analysis puts it, by thinking of mathematical facts as soft, we challenge the entire traditional role of objective external facts. The connection isn't between our words and the world anymore, it's between our words and our own minds. And that leaves us with a fascinating and maybe a little unsettling final thought. We tend to think of mathematics as the most solid, objective, dependable form of knowledge that we have. It's supposed to be the bedrock. But if even its foundation is soft, a product of our own minds, it really makes you wonder, what else that we take for granted as hard reality might just be a whole lot softer than we think.